One of the biggest storylines coming out of the Coca-Cola 600 is Chase Elliott being hit with a one-race suspension. He will miss Gateway after hooking Denny Hamlin in the right rear. Dustin, this is big news. NASCAR's most popular driver out of his seat. Thoughts on Chase's actions on track and the penalty he received?
Yeah, I mean, NASCAR made it quite clear that this was something they felt they had to do, and felt like it was pretty obvious that Chase, after he got forced into the wall, responded by turning left into Denny Hamlin and hooking him in the right rear and sending Denny Hamlin in the wall. And I thought one of the things that was interesting this week when Elton Sawyer, the NASCAR senior vice president of competition, talked to reporters about this was just saying, look, this is something that we just cannot allow to happen in the sport. And I thought one of the things that was interesting in his messaging is that he wasn't just directing it to cup drivers and the veteran drivers. He was also talking about, look, this is something that is something that can't be allowed in the modified series in the Northeast or short tracks across the country. And young drivers don't need to be learning and doing things this way. So yes, they had the penalty with Bubba Wallace last year when he hooked Kyle Larson, and then they come back and do it here with Chase Elliott. And now the message is, okay, yeah, don't do it, but also trying to get it across to everybody else in the NASCAR spectrum and in the different series that this is unacceptable. Don't be following what these drivers are doing. We're not going to allow it. So I thought the messaging was really kind of interesting and a stronger message. And like I said, from NASCAR's point of view, they said they looked at the data, the SMT, the in-car camera, and said it was pretty clear that Chase turned left and in their eyes, and they were not going to accept that.
And to your point, they did set a precedent last year with pulling Bubba out of a race for what he did to Kyle Larson. So kind of had their hands tied in the situation. And this all comes down to a matter of safety. You cannot hook a driver in the right rear on a straightaway on a mile and a half track when they're going 180 miles per hour. So I think they had to suspend Chase. And with that, before the Coca-Cola 600, we were still talking about Chase Elliott possibly being able to point his way into the playoffs after missing 6 races due to that leg injury. Now it seems like he's moved into what we consider must-win territory before the playoffs kick off later this year. And that seems like it's doable for Chase. You look at some of the tracks left, he's won points races at Nashville, Atlanta, Pocono, Watkins Glen. Do you see this as a must-win situation? And do you have Chase winning before the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a must-win situation. You're right, Kim, and I think you explained it perfectly. I don't think that any of us anticipate Chase Elliott going winless in a season. But then again, I don't think we anticipated Martin Truex Jr. or Ryan Blaney doing that last year, or was a couple seasons back, Denny Hamlin. So, I mean, it is out there, and it is a potential issue. Obviously, Hendrick Motorsports were as strong as they've been, historically how strong that organization is. You expect Chase Elliott to win. You know how good he is on the road courses. There are a number of road courses, starting up with Sonoma later this month. You've got the Chicago Street Course race July 4th weekend on NBC. You've got Watkins Glen, where he's had success, the Indy Road Course. So there, just in those tracks, there's opportunities. Obviously, there's Atlanta still on the schedule where he won last year. So I mean, there are a lot of places. I think for some other drivers, you might say, wow, there's only maybe a couple instances where they got a shot to win. Chase has got several shots to win, but can they do it? Have they, they haven't led a whole lot of laps. They haven't run, up in the top tier drivers so far this season. Can they get that turned around? I think that'll be an interesting storyline. Obviously, the longer it goes, the more pressure it builds on Chase and that team. And look, there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. So if he can win, this weekend at Gateway or next weekend at Sonoma, then that just kind of puts it to rest. And then he's focusing on winning races for playoff points and better positioning in the playoffs.
I don't think Chase doesn't win, but there are questions I have because if you look at his performance compared to Byron, who arguably almost got his 4th win in the Coca-Cola 600 if it weren't for Blaney, and then Kyle Larson and the dominance we've seen between he and Cliff Daniels, are you concerned about the 9 team relative to what his teammates have been able to do?
I think there's a little bit of concern, like you said. Byron's been so good and has led so many laps. I think Byron's like 20% of the laps run the last 5 races. He's got 5 straight top 10 finishes, and he's got the multiple wins this season. We haven't seen that out of Chase. Now Chase missed 6 races, and people talk about how quickly the sport moves forward, from race to race, and it took him a little bit of time to kind of get back into the swing of things. So I think he's gone through that grace period. And now it's time to see what he can do once he gets back into the car starting next week at Sonoma, and move on from there.
One thing we can confirm is he can't win at Gateway.
Yes.
He won't be at the seat. And because he's not in the seat, huge opportunity for Corey LaJoie. It was announced he will sub in for Chase at Gateway in the number 9 Hendrick Chevrolet. And people have been clamoring for a very long time to see LaJoie in a top tier car. So point blank, what can he do this weekend with this opportunity?
I think what Corey LaJoie needs to do with this opportunity is just not do too much, and not, yes, this is the ride of a lifetime right now for him, but it's a 1-race deal. And, you can't, yes, you can win the race, but you can also lose so much in 1 race. So I just think that you've got to be smart about how you do this. And look, if the car is going to allow you and you feel comfortable to run in the top 10, great. That's what you're going to do. Top 5, great. If you can compete for 1, that's even better. But I don't think this is a make or break on Corey LaJoie. I think Corey LaJoie is a very good driver. I think he'll show that. And I think just the biggest thing is just don't mess up, and just put yourself in a good position to run well all day, and then see where things happen, where things fall the last part of the race, and go from there. And look, maybe he gets that win in the 9 car, who knows? But I think, look, the goal is top 10, and just bring it home and just have a good day.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.